The girl watched in horror as the large python wrapped itself around the pregnant, completely helpless cat. She rushed forward to help, but the python's grip was just too strong. The girl began to cry, realizing that the cat and her unborn kittens were beyond saving. But right at that desperate moment, help came from someone totally unexpected. Emily had always had a deep love for animals. Ever since she was a child, she had dreamed of having a big house where she could provide shelter for many homeless pets. Unfortunately, this dream remained out of reach for now. Emily lived in a small apartment in a peaceful neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Her one-room home was located on the second floor of an old brick building. Despite having limited resources, she tried her best to help street animals whenever possible. She had a special fondness for cats. Emily worked as a nurse at the local hospital and frequently had to work night shifts. Despite feeling exhausted after her shifts, she always found time for the animals she cared for. Every morning, Emily would step outside carrying a bag of cat food. She would carefully place the food in colorful bowls she had set up in hidden spots around the area. "Come on, little ones," she would call softly. "Time for breakfast. I know you must be hungry." Stray cats of various breeds and sizes would gather around her. Emily knew each one by sight and had even given them all special names. She had become especially attached to a small black cat with a distinctive white patch on her chest. Emily had named her Shadow. The cat had bright green eyes and a small scar on her left ear. Recently, Shadow had become noticeably rounder. She was pregnant and would soon give birth to kittens. "Oh, Shadow," Emily would whisper, while gently stroking the cat's soft fur. "What are we going to do when your babies arrive?" The dangerous streets are no place for tiny kittens, but my apartment is already so cramped. Emily worried constantly about the future litter. She understood perfectly well that the street was a dangerous place for newborn kittens, but her small apartment would be too crowded for all the animals. Living in the apartment next door to Emily was an elderly man named Walter. He was around 70 years old, but appeared even older than his actual age. Walter's gray hair was always neatly combed, and his clothes were carefully ironed. In his younger days, he had been a military pilot and had participated in numerous important operations. His apartment walls were covered with photographs and awards, constant reminders of his distinguished past. He had only recently moved to their neighborhood and kept very much to himself. Walter rarely interacted with anyone and seldom ventured outside his home. His only companion was a large golden retriever named Rusty. Rusty wasn't just an ordinary dog. He had previously worked as a service dog in search and rescue operations and had helped save many lives. Emily had made several attempts to befriend her new neighbor. She would greet him warmly whenever they met and try to start friendly conversations. "Good morning, Mr. Walter," Emily would say cheerfully. "Isn't it a lovely day today? How are you feeling?" But Walter would always reply briefly and hurry away. "Morning," he would mutter under his breath, avoiding eye contact. It was obvious that social interaction was difficult and uncomfortable for him. From conversations with other neighbors, Emily learned about Walter's sad personal history. She discovered that he had recently suffered the loss of his only son, Thomas. The young man had worked as a rescue worker and had tragically died while performing his duties. It happened during a devastating forest fire. Thomas had been rescuing people from a burning village when disaster struck. After Thomas's death, Walter had taken in his dog Rusty. The animal was his only remaining connection to his deceased son. Having learned this heartbreaking story, Emily felt even greater sympathy for her gloomy neighbor. She truly understood his grief and loneliness. However, all her attempts to establish a friendship with him remained unsuccessful. "I just wish there was something I could do to help him," Emily confided to Shadow one evening. No one should have to face such sadness alone. One morning, as was her daily routine, Emily went out to feed the cats, but noticed that Shadow was missing. The black cat was usually the very first to arrive for breakfast, but today she was nowhere to be found. Emily's stomach knotted with worry. In her advanced stage of pregnancy, Shadow shouldn't have wandered far from her usual spots. After making sure all the other cats were fed, Emily set out to search for Shadow. Her pulse quickened with each passing minute as she checked the entire street, looking carefully under bushes and inside basement entrances. Unfortunately, there was no sign of Shadow anywhere. "Shadow! Shadow, where are you?" she called out repeatedly, her voice cracking with desperation, but her calls were answered only by the singing of birds and the noise of passing cars. The girl then decided to expand her search beyond the immediate street. Near their building was a small vacant lot overgrown with tall grass and weeds. Sharp thorns caught on Emily's jeans as she made her way through the dense vegetation. After pushing through the thickets for a couple of minutes, she suddenly heard a faint, distressed meow. Emily's heart raced as she hurried toward the sound. Parting the thick grass, she let out a terrified scream. Before her eyes was a horrifying scene. A huge python had wrapped its body around Shadow's small frame. The snake was at least 2 meters long, its distinctive patterned brown skin glistening eerily in the morning light. Its cold, unblinking eyes fixed on its prey as it slowly tightened its deadly coils around the cat. Despite her shock, Emily realized that the python attacking Shadow must have escaped from a nearby house. "Oh my God!" No exclamation mark. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She could feel her knees weaken as bile rose in her throat. Fear paralyzed Emily for a brief moment. A terrible thought flashed through her mind. She had arrived too late. Shadow couldn't possibly be saved. She could see the cat's eyes bulging slightly, her breathing becoming labored. But then, the girl gathered her courage, fueled by a sudden surge of adrenaline. She needed to take action, and quickly. Emily frantically looked around for something she could use to fight off the snake, but there was nothing suitable nearby, only grass and small pebbles that would be useless against such a large predator. In desperation, Emily shouted as loudly as she could, her voice hoarse with fear, "Help! Somebody please help me! Please!" Her voice echoed across the vacant lot, but only silence answered her desperate pleas. "Please! Someone! Anyone!" she cried again, hot tears spilling down her flushed cheeks. The girl tried with all her strength to pry the snake's tight coils away from the unfortunate cat. Her fingernails broke as they scraped against the python's scales, but the python's grip was simply too powerful. "Let her go! Please let her go!" Emily begged, as if the snake could understand her words. "She's going to have babies soon." Emily was completely overwhelmed with despair and burst into loud, hopeless sobs. Shadow's eyes were beginning to glaze over, her once vibrant gaze growing dull. And at that precise moment when all hope seemed lost, something truly remarkable happened. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. Rusty, who happened to be on his morning walk with his owner, heard the girl's distressed cries. The dog's ears immediately perked up, his body tensing as he detected the desperate screams. Rusty became alert and began barking with urgent intensity, pulling hard on his leash in the direction of the vacant lot. Walter looked at his dog with surprise. The normally calm and obedient Rusty was behaving very strangely. He was barking fiercely and straining towards something unseen. "What is it, boy? What's got you so worked up?" Walter asked with concern in his voice, his brow furrowed with worry. After hesitating for just a second, Walter decided to investigate. He released the leash, and Rusty immediately dashed off toward the source of the commotion. The dog confidently led his owner toward the sound of Emily's cries, his golden fur glistening in the morning sunlight. When they finally reached the scene, Walter saw his neighbor on her knees in a state of panic, desperately clawing at a huge snake. A small animal, clearly a cat, was writhing helplessly in the python's powerful coils. Shadow's eyes were wide with terror, but due to the snake's crushing grip, she could no longer make any sounds and was struggling just to breathe. Despite his advanced age, Walter acted with remarkable speed and decisiveness. His military training flooded back as he quickly scanned the area and noticed a thick, dry branch lying nearby. Grabbing it firmly, the old man rushed toward the python. Rusty, sensing the dangerous situation, positioned himself protectively next to his owner. The hair on the dog's neck stood straight up as he bared his teeth, growling menacingly at the snake. "Stand back, Emily," Walter commanded with unexpected authority. "Let Rusty handle this. He's trained for dangerous situations." The python, suddenly feeling threatened from multiple directions, momentarily loosened its grip on the cat. That brief moment was all Emily needed. She lunged forward and managed to grab Shadow by her hind legs. With one powerful pull that sent pain shooting through her shoulders, the girl successfully freed the cat from the snake's deadly embrace. Shadow let out a weak, plaintive meow, but didn't struggle against Emily's grasp. "I've got you now, Shadow," Emily whispered through her tears, cradling the cat close to her heart. "You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you or your babies." Having lost its intended prey, the python attempted to attack Rusty instead, but the well-trained dog skillfully evaded the strike. Walter swung the branch with the precision of a baseball batter, the sound of wood connecting with the python's body cracking through the air. "Get away from them, you beast!" Walter shouted, swinging the branch again with surprising strength for someone his age. For several tense seconds, the python swayed threateningly before them, its head raised and weaving hypnotically. Then slowly, it began to slither away into the tall grass. The rustling sound of disturbed vegetation revealed its retreating movement for some time afterward. Emily remained frozen in place, feeling Shadow's uneven breathing against her chest, her own body trembling with the aftermath of fear and relief. Walter carefully approached and knelt beside her, his experienced eyes quickly assessing Shadow's condition. "She needs help," Walter said softly, his voice now gentle and reassuring. "But I think she's going to be all right." Emily hugged the trembling Shadow tightly to her chest. Tears of both horror and relief streamed down her flushed cheeks. She looked up gratefully at Walter and Rusty. Without their intervention, she would never have saved her beloved cat and her unborn kittens. "Thank you so much," she sobbed. "You saved her life, and her unborn kittens too. I don't know how I can ever repay you." "No need for thanks," Walter replied softly. "Anyone would have done the same." During the rescue, Emily had received several painful scratches, but hadn't noticed them in the struggle. Walter, examining Shadow for injuries, recalled his military first aid training. "Let me check her over," Walter said gently, his voice warmer than Emily had ever heard. "I have some basic first aid training that might help." After this incident, Walter and Emily grew closer. The old man even offered to look after Shadow until she gave birth. "My apartment has more space," Walter explained with unexpected kindness, "and Rusty seems to have developed quite a protective attachment to your Shadow." Soon after, Shadow delivered 5 adorable kittens. Among them was one with unusual coloration. completely white with differently colored eyes, extremely rare in cats. "Look at this little one," Emily exclaimed. "Have you ever seen such beautiful mismatched eyes? It's like a little miracle." "It certainly is special," Walter agreed with a smile. "Thomas would have loved these kittens. He always had a soft spot for animals just like you." Emily and Walter cared for the feline family and found loving homes for all the kittens. The story of Shadow's rescue reached the local news, drawing attention to the issue of homeless animals throughout the city. This incident changed both their lives. Walter finally opened up and stopped avoiding social interactions, while Emily found in him a loyal friend. Together, they decided to open a small shelter for homeless animals. "What would you think about converting that abandoned building on Oak Street into an animal shelter?" Emily suggested one evening as they watched Shadow playing. "Our community needs something like that." "That's a wonderful idea," Walter replied. "I still have connections among former military colleagues who might help us get started." In establishing the shelter, they encountered bureaucratic obstacles, but with community support they overcame these difficulties. Walter utilized his network to secure sponsors and necessary equipment. A year later, their shelter had become a beloved gathering place for many residents. Abandoned animals found safe haven there, and lonely people discovered friendship. Walter and Emily conducted educational sessions in schools about responsible pet ownership. Rusty became the star attraction, helping socialize shy dogs and watching over kittens with remarkable gentleness. Who would have guessed that tough old Rusty would turn out to be such a wonderful babysitter? Walter would laugh, watching his dog nudging the playful kittens. Emily maintained a blog about shelter life, which gained popularity and helped many animals find permanent homes. "We found forever homes for 3 more cats today," she would announce. "That makes 17 adoptions just this month." Every year on Shadow's rescue anniversary, they hold a special open day, inviting the community to meet the shelter's animals and perhaps find a new furry friend. "Do you ever think about how everything started that day?" Emily often asked Walter, while scratching behind Shadow's ears as the cat purred loudly. "How could I forget that day?" Walter would reply with warmth. "One brave cat and one determined young woman changed everything, not just for the animals, but for me too." Did you enjoy this story? Have your pets ever helped or saved you in an unexpected way, just like Rusty helped save Shadow in our story? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Sometimes our greatest moments of need bring us the most meaningful connections. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.